the Rosie American Dream, baby. The bull of the woods, if you will, out here in public, reminding you to listen this week and every week to the 1973 podcast, baby. Make sure you tune in for a good time, if you will. And tell them that the Dream sent you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the crew is back. It's the lineup that everybody asked for. Christopher is back in the casa. He's here. He's got the Stanley Cup behind him. Chris, still watching even though the Bruins are out. You got to be honest.
Of course, absolutely. I watched that game last night. It was great. Panthers.
Florida looks good. We'll save that for some sports talk. So, going to change things up this week. Had a great interview with Cardboard Promotions, Doug Keating. Fantastic opportunity to sit down and talk to Doug. It'll be in this week's episode. So let's get rolling. As we usually do, we're going to Ed's bag to talk, not emails this week. On our YouTube page, we had the poll question of what is the greatest sports trophy out of the big four sports? And Ed, you want to take it from there?
Sure. Well, this is sponsored by GoonGuard, GoonGuard.com. Check out Andy. He's got the packaging right there.
Right in the locker room.
Right in the locker room. I mean, I bet you. I wonder if those guys, I wonder if they have them. I wonder if they have their initials or anything in there. That way they can talk some smack without talking. So anyway, go ahead.
Setting the tone.
Setting the tone. Calling us names.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, the poll question is, what is the hardest or best championship trophy that is out there? So I'm gonna kick it to you guys.
Let's start with Chris. We haven't heard from him for a little bit. He's got a trophy in back of him right now. Could that be his answer?
Obviously, this is opinion-based, but everybody that has an opinion that says it's not the Stanley Cup is wrong. There is no championship. There's no playoff feeling like there is in hockey. There's no trophy where you're eating cereal and drinking beer and having spaghetti and meatballs out of. There's just no such thing in any other sport that would make that trophy better than the Stanley Cup. The way it's been used over, the last whatever years since it was created, it's just amazing what they do with it. Everybody gets a turn with it. Everybody's eating some kind of poutine, ice cream sundaes. It's an amazing tradition. The way it gets brought out on the ice with the white gloves, it really, to me, it's amazing. Just the size of the damn thing, the weight of it. It's an incredible. It should be like another wonder, one of those wonders of the world. It's bigger than the freaking Great Wall of China to me. Come on.
So you're saying it's like the 9th wonder of the world, or is it the 10th because China was the ninth wonder of the world?
Yeah, we'll go with the 10th. China's a beast.
Well, I already see somebody on the panel chuckling a little bit. So I'm going to kick it to, as up to this point, my guy Bradford, you have the floor.
Y'all go kick me off this podcast. So of the big four, NBA easily at the bottom. I think that's probably the least desirable, trophy. I will put Stanley Cup just barely above NBA and then tied World Series trophy and an NFL Super Bowl trophy. Now, in terms of popularity in America, baseball and football championships, probably two of the most watched, most looked at, sought after trophies. Now, Chris, my man, you said everybody gets a turn and a shot at this thing. You kind of made my argument for me. You kind of downplayed the importance of the Stanley Cup by saying everybody gets a turn and you're eating cereal and stuff out of it. Man, that's dog water, bro. Did you see Tom Brady taking his Super Bowl trophy and throwing it from boat to boat in Tampa Bay? That was epic, bro. I would say probably in terms of revenue, popularity, how just epic the night goes for the championship, Super Bowl is probably the most sought after, most important trophy in American sports. Hands down, Super Bowl trophy.
You
Tom
know,
will definitely agree with me.
Thomas, they're calling you out. Now, you're not known for being the biggest chirper, being a goaltender. So they're calling you out, Thomas. What do you got?
Well, first of all, I see his Tom Brady throwing the trophy over from boat to boat, and I raise him with the Dallas Stars throwing the Stanley Cup off of a balcony of a hotel, trying to hit a pool and missing and having it hit the ground, and they had to actually repair the Stanley Cup.
See,
But
hockey players don't even respect the trophy. How can it be the top one?
no, they know how hard it is. You have to win in the NFL. How many games do you have to win in the playoffs? What, so maybe 4?
You got to
NHL,
win. You got a majority of 16 regular season games to even get there.
NHL has to play what, 82 games, Andy?
Yep.
And then you have to win 16 in the playoffs.
Yep.
And they're not really getting paid in the playoffs. Everything's in escrow, as the Phantom explained a couple weeks ago. So this is all for the love of the game here. And if you want to talk physicality, yes, NFL is physical. Now, can you imagine, say, the 49ers have to play the Chiefs and you have to win 4 out of 7 games to win? Then you earn my respect. Don't get me wrong, I respect the NFL, but to me, it's the Stanley Cup all the way.
That's a lot of concussions.
Speaking of concussions, let's go to Ed on his take on this one.
First of all, Brad, you're wrong. Brad's just wrong. Okay. Now, first and foremost, I think that any of those 4 major sports, it's all a road to a championship for each one. Having played a little bit of football, having played a little bit of baseball, and playing a little bit of hockey, I would have to say that hockey probably is going to be the most difficult one. I mean, if you look back at what Deion Sanders says, the hardest thing for him to do is hit a fastball or hit a curveball. Well, there's something to be said about baseball too. But I mean, as far as ranking system, Stanley Cup is number 1 just because of how physical it is. You have to win 16 games to win the cup. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so, as we saw last night, if you play physical, you're probably going to win. I'd say the NFL championship number 2. I'd say Major League Baseball number 3, and then basketball number 4. So those are my picks. I'd have to say that Brad, I think part of it is that your lack of hockey knowledge has to do with the fact that you don't understand what goes on with the Stanley Cup. It's the ultimate respect that each person gets a day with the cup. They take it to their hometown. I mean, they take it to some of these places up in Canada where there's only 500 people in the town, and hockey is life up there. And I know that there's two of us on this panel besides myself that did go to hockey night in Canada in Montreal. I'd say about 23, 24 years ago. And if you've never been to a hockey night in Canada, it's like Super Bowl Sunday on a Saturday night in Canada. So I think the Stanley Cup is number 1.
My rebuttal, please.
Sure.
Panel. So
You got it.
First of all, this hockey season, I've watched exactly 4 games maybe, and they were all boring. I fell asleep on all of them, and they were playoff games. It is not America's sport, y'all. Y'all want it to be, it's not. I get it. Now, Ed, you said it's important. Everybody gets a turn. They go to hometowns and they do visits. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like ABC's The Bachelor, bro. Everybody gets a hometown date. Everybody gets to go home and get a turn, and they pick the winner. That's what hockey sounds like to me. That's probably its closest relative in live sports entertainment to me would be ABC's The Bachelor.
Who found this guy?
How do you know about what The Bachelor is all about?
Bro, go back, look at my old tweets, man. I was all about it. I ran, led, and won 2 years in a row at Fantasy Bachelor League. Can't mess with me, bro. Can't mess with me. Oh, it's raining.
Chris.
Not only do you have questionable opinions, but you also have questionable taste in music and TV viewing.
and possibly men. Chris, do you want to close this out or anything? Because we're going off the rails here.
I mean, I guess I get where he's coming from as far as here in America, yes, the biggest night in sports is the Super Bowl, right? Millions of people are surrounded, the TVs, parties, watching that. Obviously, it's way bigger revenue wise. I get where he's coming from, but like when you understand the sport of hockey and the intensity, the level up that these players push themselves as soon as day one of the playoffs hit, it's just a whole different animal. It's a whole different, and unless you follow the sport like us four do, as much as we always have our whole lives, like it's just that in understanding that we have, it's in our hearts, it's in our blood, it's just it's so much more than anything else. It's hard to explain. You just have to feel it. It's this crazy feeling. Hockey fans are the most avid fans in the world.
So let me close this segment out with asking a question. Why do we think that the NBA trophy is number 4 right off the hop? Why do you guys think the NBA trophy is 4th automatically?
Right now, nobody plays defense.
Yeah, it's so watered down. The big stars get the foul calls. I heard it on the announcer the other day. Dude got literally tackled, no call. And they're like, well, that's the power of being a star. If you're a star, you get that call. If you're a role player, you're coming off the bench, you don't. And I think out of all the sports, the NBA is probably the most easily swayed in favor of here comes the conspiracy theories at the Vegas line, or the larger market team that they want to see push through to generate revenue. So I think that's why it's too watered down.
So one of these weeks when we're looking for a tinfoil hat segment, I have a conspiracy theory that could be a really good deep dive. Why is there a conspiracy to keep the NHL down in the United States and not let it be marketed like the NFL and Major League Baseball? That's always been a conspiracy theory to me. It's accessible to everybody. I mean, it's now on ABC, it's on ESPN, but why is the marketing so lax in America compared to, say Canada? Why can't the players like a Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid be showcased in commercials in the US like a Tom Brady or a LeBron James? That's a good conspiracy theory, something to talk about. But let's move on. Let's talk some wrestling. We're gonna do a little MJF returns. Tom, what do you think about the return of MJF?
I thought it was great that he came back. My biggest gripe is where they had it happen on the pay-per-view. I mean, they should have done it either later in the show or even save it for the regular show. What is it, Dynamite? Because I mean, their ratings haven't been that great. I mean, that would have been a huge boost to them. But I mean, having him back is definitely going to help. I mean, and then I have no idea why they didn't have him show up on Dynamite this past week after he showed up at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, if you look at the logistics of their roster, the only guy left after CM Punk left, he is the only guy that's actually a ratings mover. Nobody else moves the needle on that roster except him. Him being back, I still don't think he's a lifer with AEW, but I do think that them getting him back is a positive for them, and they're in a stage of negotiation with is it Time Warner to extend their TV deal. But since they started, their ratings have done nothing but nosedive. So we talked a couple weeks ago about them jumping the shark and at what point in time they did that. I have my feelings on it. I put it on Cody leaving and CM Punk's press conference at after the fact where he called them the All Elite out and the fight happened and all that stuff. I think that's possibly a jump the shark moment too. So thoughts on MJF coming back? Ed, what do you think? Love it.
He's one of the best guys on the mic today. Where no matter what organization you're talking about, he knows how to build it. He knows how to build the crowd. He knows how to settle it down and then rebuild it. He's just awesome on the mic. He reminds me of all the old school wrestlers that were really good on the mic, that were good at cutting promos. He's the best today out of both organizations. I didn't see the pay-per-view, and the thing is like if you have somebody that's such a needle mover like himself, like he is, you need to use him and utilize him properly. And like we've talked about numerous times before, Tony, put all 5 of us on the plane. We can do a better job than your writers. Come on, man.
Hey, we could do it just like this. We could send in ideas, no problem. Just we need to be on the payroll. You got guys on that payroll that will take way less to do a lot more for you than those guys. I guarantee you that. Chris, I know you're a big MJF guy. You got the scarf.
Huge, right? Huge fan. Love the dude to death. Whichever promotion has him or is going to continue to have him, or when his contract's up, lock him up. Like, good for them. Like, this guy, like you said, needle mover. He's just amazing on the mic. He's a great wrestler. He's probably one of the best heels I can ever remember in my lifetime. And you know how I'm all about guys' physiques. This guy looks amazing. Whatever he did in those, since he was gone in December, I think it was December when he left. Like, look at that dude. That dude is shredded. He looks awesome. So just another check mark on his resume.
Speaking of guys who follow men, Bradford, what do you think of MJF's return?
I think it is more, timing, like y'all said. Dropping him in a 6-hour pay-per-view. I could see folks probably like snoozing through it. I mean, 6 hours is a long time to sit in front of your TV. Then they had a lot of other stuff going on in that pay-per-view with the Darby with the blowtorch and Copeland, who is 50 plus years old, jumping off the top of the cage and breaking his leg. And it's funny because a while back, I remember, Andy, you said, AEW puts all this, violence in their shows, but it's kind of unnecessary. Like if it's scripted and it plays a part, tells a story, go ahead. But some of the risks they're taking doesn't add up to what the payout is. Now, when you're, aging stars that, is on the roster is out, with a broken leg. But having MJF is huge for that company. I think if he ever jumps ship to WWE, that's going to be that final nail in the coffin for AEW. So I don't see them letting him go anytime soon. They would be fools if they did. So
the return of him was kind of anticlimactic. They should saved it for a regular TV show where more people could see it and they could get ratings out of it. I mean, people that bought the pay-per-view already spent their money. So you would think you would kind of draw it in with, the TV ratings and having him back, and, maybe somebody who's a casual fan will come back because they know that he's on. Me knowing that he's on will make me want to watch at least his segments. The thing I thought was interesting about that promo is he comes out and he's got the Triple H vest and leather jacket. I don't know what his angle was with that. He never said anything about it, but he had the Triple H kind of garb on. And some of the things that are takeaways from that interview, and a lot of his interviews are off the rip and it's not scripted. You can tell it's not scripted. He says that he's tired of doing the play wrestling and the comedy stuff. So I'm like, that's great. Get back to whatever. What I like about him is whatever those fans like, he goes against it. If they're cheering him, he don't want the cheers. It's like he tries to find a way to draw heat. Even at the conventions, he's in full character. I've never run into him at one of those, but when he's a heel, he's a heel. He'll write, there'll be a girl that's getting his autograph on an 8x10 and he'll say like, who am I signing this to? And she'll say, oh, it's Jenny. And he'll write to slut on there or whatever. And just like for space, or, somebody will pay for a combo that's a picture and an autograph. So he'll turn sideways and only let them take a picture of half his face. And you say, well, you only paid for half a picture. So when he's in heel mode, he's great. I mean, he flipped off a kid that was in a wheelchair one time, he was getting all kinds of heat at one point in, that beginning of AEW, but great heel. I'm glad he's back. Maybe with the wrong company, who knows? But Ethan Page, I don't know if you guys remember Ethan Page. He showed up in NXT.
One last thing, Andy, about you were talking about the jacket. that was kind of an ode to Triple H, because Triple H, during one of the times he got hurt and he was out a long time, when he came back, that's what he wore. That's when he actually broke out that jacket. That's what I had read anyway. And
Okay,
one other
so
thing
go
about
ahead.
the negotiations was, I've heard that TNT's lost basketball. The NBA is out from TNT after this year, so they're supposedly Tony Khan is pretty sure they're going to stay there. That TNT is happy with where they are with them right now, so they don't want to lose both of them in the same time frame. So I think they're pretty safe there.
For now.
Yeah.
For now. So Brad, real quick before we move on from wrestling, you had sent a little text message to us about the Cody AJ Styles angle. I want to bring everybody up to date on that one.
Yeah, they were cooking on Friday Night SmackDown. So they've been hinting at AJ Styles' retirement for weeks. And at the start of the show, he's there in a suit. You know, he goes out and he's like, hey, I think tonight's the night. I'm gonna, drop some news. He goes and talks to Cody. He goes and gets Gallows and forget the other guy's name right now. But
Anderson.
yeah, Gallows. Yeah. And so he's like talking to them. He's like, hey, you got started this with me. You're gonna end it with me. The whole episode, they got us all on the edge of our seats waiting for this dang retirement announcement. He comes out to the ring. It's the last segment of the show. Literally says he's, it's the end, he's like, I can't wrestle anymore. I'd have to go to the back of the line to challenge Cody. I ain't got time for that no more. And he looks to his bros and he's like, one last time. And they all do it. And the whole crowd is just emotional. We're like, this sucks, man. And everybody's chanting, we love you and stuff like that. And Cody comes out and he shakes his hand and then just clotheslines the shit out of him. And then proceeds to just completely dismantle Cody Rhodes. And it was the most awesome thing I've seen in the last couple months. Great story arc, great use of AJ Styles. Maybe he's going to make one last run. I think he probably should look at retirement where he's at age-wise and stuff like that. But man, it's phenomenal segment. It was incredible.
No pun
Absolutely
intended.
Incredible.
No pun intended when you said a phenomenal segment.
100% intended.
Okay. The great thing about that, and I think Ed, if you got a couple minutes this afternoon, check out the MJF promo. I think I sent it to you, but I know you didn't.
I checked it out. It was a great promo. He did a great job with that promo.
And then you got to check out the AJ Styles angle. With Cody being involved, he's gonna try to get that Dusty sympathy, like the old man. He's gonna be the Uber baby face that you feel bad for. So here's a chance for an eclectic group of heels, almost like not the Legion of Doom Road Warriors, but the Legion of Doom from DC Comics. You're going to have that rogues gallery of heels that are going to try to screw them over as 6 ways to Sunday, as they say, and you're going to fall in love with this guy because he's going to just keep doing the Rocky style of babyface gimmick where you pound him into the ground and you just can't kill him. He's going to be all hot like the old man, and that's the ride they're going to take you on until Roman Reigns returns. And I think that when Roman Reigns returns, he's going to be an actual face and, screw around with Heyman and the Bloodline to have his, because people will want to see him when he comes back. So, Chris, thoughts on, have you been watching it? I know the last couple of weeks you've been on and off with it. So have you been watching it at all?
I've been very disconnected with anything on TV or except for hockey, literally.
Yeah. We've been kind of following that whole Cody transition, and Brad's already fed up with him. So, we're going to have to see as it plays out. Tom, I had mentioned to you before the podcast started, we were talking about a little while back about a conspiracy theory involving Kevin Sullivan. I heard Kevin Sullivan might have been in a car accident. So news on that. I don't know if it was true or if it was BS, but it's just funny how that happens after we mention him on a podcast. But if he is available, I'll take him on the podcast anytime. The Taskmaster has an open door to come on the 1973 podcast. One of my favorite heels of all time. Talking about Dusty and great villains. That is one of the best. So any more wrestling talk, or are we moving on? Anybody got anything to add? Ed, you look like you're ready to add something. Tom?
Just one quick thing. It does look like Mark Henry's done with AEW. He showed up over the weekend at MLW's show. So I guess he is officially 100% done.
So there's a couple of guys that are done. Arn Anderson is officially done with AEW. There's talks that there are some other people that are not going to have their contract renewed. And Tony Khan, the way he does stuff is he just doesn't contact them. He just lets it fizzle right out. So he totally ghosts the people that are on the out. So I think I don't know if the big show's all done, but he's got to be close. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Dustin when he's all done. That should be sometime this summer. And there was somebody else that they let their contract. It was 3 people from AEW. It was Arn Anderson, Mark Henry, and there was somebody else. It escapes me who it is, but I think I sent it to you guys this week. Other than that, the Becky Lynch free agency, there's something to keep an eye on. We'll see if all these pennies that they're saving with these people that they'll scoop her up. What do you think, Bradford?
I think she just, her and Seth, I mean, they have a young baby. Like, they have a baby girl. I think they're trying to just go spend some quality family time. They've been jobbing it for the last 2 years. And I think that's all this is. Seth's going to get healthy. He probably needs help at home because, like, they're wrestlers, they're stars, they're famous, but they're still families. Like, they're still people. And I'm sure they don't want nannies raising their kids. So, and she came out and she did say she's not going to AEW. She's not coming to WWE, but she wants room to have her life, get her life in order, and come back when she's ready, type of thing. And Triple H said that he's confident she's not going nowhere. And if AEW tried to vulture her, she would bankrupt the company, hands down. They can't afford it. There's no way. And I don't think she's going to go by herself without bringing Seth Rollins. Like, they're not going to split that. So, I don't think she's going anywhere. I think she just needs a break to go be with her family. That's all it is.
Tom, you want to add anything to that?
Well, speaking of Seth Rollins, I don't know if you guys have seen online or not, but he's completely shaved his head and his beard. So he totally looks pretty unrecognizable right now. I don't know if he's just doing it because he's bored, because he's out like nursing his injuries or whatnot. But yeah, he's totally shaved everything.
Maybe he did that just so he can go out in public and not be seen or whatever. And then, when it's time to come back, he can change his look up a little bit. I'm just tired of seeing him dressing like a chick, but that's a whole nother thing. So time for some shitty picks. We can start talking sports. Let's go, Thomas.
All right. Tom's Shitty Picks is brought to you by Brock Street Brewing Company, located at 244 Brock Street South in Whitby, Ontario. Everything they brew is in-house, including their beers, seltzers, vodka sodas, and their hard iced teas. So if you're in the Whitby area, go check them out and tell them the 1973 podcast sent you.
There we go.
I want Scotty and I want our good friend of the podcast, Darren, to listen up for the next few minutes because both of them have complained about not enough basketball talk. So here we go right now. We're going to start the clock right now. My pick this week, I'm going to pick the finals. Celtics versus the Mavs. I think it's going to be a good series. I'm going with the Celtics in 6. But I will say that the key to the series is if the Celtics can shut down Kyrie, because Doncic, Luka's going to get his. They played twice this year. He averaged 35 points a game, and the Celtics still beat him both times. So I think he's going to get his. It's going to be like how they used to be with Michael Jordan. The Celtics used to let Jordan just do what he wanted, and as long as they shut down Scottie Pippen and everyone else, they were happy they'd win. So I'm hoping that's what I think. The Celtics, they have too many weapons this year. I mean, they've already lost one time in the finals with Tatum and Brown, but this year, if Porzingis is healthy enough to play, he's a big key. I think Derek White has stepped up huge this year, and Drew Holiday is huge on the defensive end. So I'm going to go with the Celtics in 6.
Anybody else want to add any basketball talk other than the Harlem Globetrotters? That's all I got. If we're not talking Curly Neal if we're not talking Meadowlark Lemon, if we're not talking Howlin' Globetrotters on Scooby-Doo or on Gilligan's Island, I'm out of this conversation.
Well, I don't want to take the flowers. I don't want to downplay the Boston Celtics. They made it to the finals. You play the teams that are in front of you. It's up to the other teams to manage the health of their players and the minutes to get your teams in position to be most successful. But the Boston Celtics probably had the easiest walk to the finals in the history of the NBA. The Heat, the Heat lost Jimmy Butler, the Bucks lost Giannis and Dame, the Cavs lost Donovan Mitchell, the Knicks lost Brunson, the Pacers lost Halliburton. They waltzed into there. They're healthy, they're not banged up, they didn't even break a sweat. The Mavs battled. Luka is hurt, playing hurt. Kyrie's hurt, still playing. And you said they got to stop Kyrie. Yo, good luck. My man's can finish right hand, left hand. He can shoot the J. He can hit the three-pointer. He can do it all. He can dish it when he needs to. It's phenomenal, man. I thought the Kyrie experiment was going to wind up like all his other failed super team experiments, but he's taken on this role of like mentor, father figure for Luka, who's, I think only 25, and he just kind of like brought him up, and they have great chemistry. They're playing great basketball. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going with Dallas. 6-7 games. I don't know. They're going to drag it out. Obviously, NBA is going to get paid, but Dallas is going to win this. 100%.
Crystal Ball Huey was making faces. Chris, do you want to add? I know you're a big Celtics fan. I know.
I used to love basketball. I used to watch a lot of basketball. I fell off just like I fell off baseball. I don't have time for it in my life, so I've completely disengaged from the sport. But just to see another hater that somewhere in this country like Brad, who just can't stand Boston being the best sports city in the country, he's got to downplay their success. You know what? Bring another championship to Boston, baby. Let's go Celtics. I'll be at that parade if they do.
Yo, as long as LeBron stays in the West, the Celtics should dominate every season. They've been the best team in the East for like the last 8 years. And then LeBron's not there. The East is so easy. They should walk into the finals every year. They have no excuse not to. No excuse.
Ed, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
Yes, Celtics in 6.
I'm all by myself.
But
the thing about it is just that, look, I haven't watched more than 1 minute of basketball all year. I've listened to more basketball on my travels back from Tallahassee, but because the Doug Gottlieb show is on sports radio. But other than that, it's basketball. It's not like back in the 80s with Celtics versus Lakers, and it's not like Pistons and Bulls and the Knicks back when it was like really truly like how basketball was meant to be played. To kind of circle back to your point about it's pretty soft. You're still wrong about the Stanley Cup, Brad, but I about basketball.
Thomas, I can see you got something. Chris has something too. So,
well, just the whole Kyrie thing. I think he's been doing this whole gimmick where he's a changed man, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's all going to change again in Boston because he's not prepared for what's coming. The Celtics fans all week, that's all they've been talking about so far. Yep. Is when last time they played him in the playoffs when he was with Brooklyn, he wiped his feet on the Celtics mascot at center court, and that's all anyone's been talking about all week. So he better bring his earplugs because the last time he came and they were chanting "fuck you, Kyrie," and to the point where Jason Tatum was trying to quiet the crowd down because they were so loud. So I think he's either gonna. It's one of those things. He's either gonna fall off the cliff with this, or he's gonna come out looking like a diamond on this one. But I just think he's too. I won't say weak-minded, but I think he's gonna break in this series.
It's almost like the script writers knew what they were doing when they sent Dallas into the finals.
Chris, did you have something to add to this basketball stuff?
I did. I just that vice president of basketball operations for the Dallas Mavericks. That dude, what kind of stiffy does he got right now on? He really had to. My boy just won the Western Conference Finals and he rips a beer out of his hand. That is lame as shit, dude. Come on. Just for that, they deserve to lose in 4.
He's trying to mentor young Luca, man. Come on. He's trying to mentor
Michael
this
Finley.
kid. Huh?
Hey, let me
Michael Finley, he used to play with them.
Yeah.
Let me add something to this basketball. It's a little disclaimer from your host. I just want to say that even though we're not the biggest basketball fans, maybe Brad, he loves gentlemen. He loves gentlemen in shorts. That we are not turning away any basketball or former NBA players from making an appearance on the 1973 podcast. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you on, talk, shoot the shit, talk about how basketball was, how it should be, and all things basketball. But let's move on. Let's talk about the NHL playoffs. Let's go. My Florida Panthers, the way hockey needs to be played, are moving on to the Stanley Cup for 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. That's the way we should play hockey. Monday, Chris wasn't here last week. We're talking about it. If there's a template for the way that hockey should be played nowadays, Florida Panthers play it. Chris, thoughts on the playoffs since the last time you were here?
I may be wrong. I don't think so, but I'm never going to go against my Bruins. So when we first did the original picks, I said, of course, the Bruins are that. But my actual pick was the Florida Panthers. I think Tom should have recorded that on that paper that we originally did. So, but yeah, dude, that team they're built for the playoffs. You know what I mean? To what they did to the Rangers, even though it was a good series, what they did to the Rangers with all that talent, the goalie and net on top, they're amazing. They're gritty, they're tough, they wear you down. They little bit dirty. Like you gotta love it. I love the coach to death, dude. What they did to the Bruins 2 years in a row, you would think I should hate the damn team and fucking want them to, completely. I hope they win the cup. Honestly, they're just a great team all around. I love watching it. As far as the West goes, though, I would like to say I think David Portnoy's won like $5.4 million in his latest gambling bets on sports, and he's got McDavid in the Edmonton Oilers right now, and he's hot. So I don't want to shut that right down. Let's see what happens there. It should be exciting.
Well, it should be tonight. You never know. I mean, Dallas is on the hook of elimination, so if they can force a game 7, you never know. But they're gonna win tonight. The comparison I like to make with the Panthers, the way they play is, when you go get sliced meat, how when you put it in the thing, it slices it real thin. That's what they do to teams. They just grind you down, and it's like they just weigh you out, and they just keep coming because everybody plays the same. There's nobody that doesn't buy into that concept of the way that they're playing, whether it's somebody from Europe or one of the Canadian guys or one of the American guys. They all play the same. And I had a feeling they were going to win last night when Montador hit him cutting across. They were trying to get fancy coming into the zone, and Montador caught him on the trolley tracks and just sent him for a ride. I said, oh, yeah, these guys, they're all dialed in, and they're healthier this year than they were last year. But, Ed, you want to add something to
I surely would. Well, first and foremost, we actually talked basketball for 6 minutes and 52 seconds. Good for the record. Scotty, check it out. That's what we did. Circling to the NHL playoffs, man, you gotta love Florida. They just put the body on the Rangers. They exposed every single weakness that the Rangers had, and I thought it was going to go differently. I had the Rangers picked to go to the Stanley Cup, so I have one horse left in the team, but they're just a great playoff team. They play hockey the way that it's meant to be played. And to take Andy's point, they grind and they just grind. And they roll 4 lines on offense typically, and those guys, they're just rolling and they're putting the body on everybody. And then and Sam Bennett, he's the one that leads the way. And he's just such a great playoff player. Not only is he a great player, but just he leads by example, And then who is they were talking about the Russian that they picked up this year.
Tarasenko.
Yes, and he's bought into the program. He's blocking shots with 7 minutes left to go in the third period last night. I mean, how can you not like a team like that where even the European guys known to typically be a little bit softer. If anybody watch our boy Don Cherry, they don't typically block shots. They don't like to do that, and they were doing it. So it's exciting to watch. And I think there's a good possibility that out west it's going to go to Game 7. I really think that. I mean, just watching the Oilers, they're just a machine, and I think that ultimately they're going to win.
Yeah, call me crazy, but as far as the schedule goes, next week's podcast, usually we do it on the weekend. It will be Game 1 is Saturday, so we'll have to plan accordingly, fellas, because it's going to be a fun watch. Tom, want to add to this latest round of playoffs?
First of all, I want to say it's even though you didn't jump to the Bruins, it's good to see that you jumped off that Flyer bandwagon. It seems like you're Florida bandwagon.
Nope. As soon as I said it, I knew I was going to get called out by it. Nope.
But I gotta root for Florida. They've got Sean Thornton working in the front office, so got that Bruin connection there. So but they're just so tough. I mean, I thought that the Rangers would be deep enough to match them, and not even close. I mean, the Rangers looked really, really slow up against them, and they didn't look like half as physical as they usually are, to be honest with you. But the other series, I've been saying Ottinger all series, and he just hasn't come up big at all in this series so far. So I'm hoping they go 7. Hopefully he comes up big tonight and they goes to 7. But I mean, I don't know. I think to be honest, I think it might be. I mean, granted, Canada will be happy because if Edmonton makes it, but the worst playoff they could have down here is Dallas and Edmonton. I mean, nobody is going to care, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Phantom was kind of off with the conspiracy theory of ratings boost for the Rangers versus Florida, for watching it on bigger markets. So I'm waited. I asked everybody. Bradford, what do you got
for hockey?
Yeah.
Put me on the spot. My only comment for this is the Texas Rangers, the Dallas Mavs, and the Dallas Stars all made their conference championship games in their respective sports before the Dallas Cowboys did. So it's kind of time for the Cowboys to step it up.
So, yeah, I mean, that says a lot for the state, though, because I'll tell you a fun fact about the state of Texas with the way that hockey is actually booming right now. A couple of years back, probably about, I want to say 13 years ago, when I went for my referee certification, we went to a USA hockey class where you got to get certified on being a referee and get your patch and all that stuff. And the guy that was giving the seminar was a national referee. And he said, if you want to make the referee job a full-time gig and get paid really well at a youth sport level, if you relocated to Florida or Texas, you could do it full time because they're booming so much and they don't have enough people with that kind of skill set to get out there and referee at any level. So that was already 13 years ago. So just imagine now. So I'm sure there are still pockets of the South that kids probably really want to play. They just don't have an avenue for a local rink or whatever. So it is booming. You would think that it would be bigger in the South because it's air conditioned all year round. So, those Southern parents would love to be in an air conditioned building like that with some flip flops on instead of out getting their vitamin D in the sun. So, yeah, hockey is booming in the South, and we'll see. So, speaking of things that are booming, we did a fantastic interview this week with Doug Keating from Cardboard Promotions. Ed, you want to kind of bring us up to speed so we can do the lead-in for this interview?
Sure. I mean, Doug came on with us. I think it was Wednesday night. Talked with us for about an hour about his a lot of his guests that he had at his car shows and the places that he does it at. He gave us some great insight on, how he started, and he also gave us some great insights, some good stories about some of the people that he's had come to his shows and that type of thing. It was just really nice of him to give us an hour of his time and talk about, something he's extremely passionate about. And we thank him very much for coming on. It was great to have him.
Yeah, a couple before we put the interview into the episode. A couple of weeks ago, the professor had won a raffle through Cardboard and got a slew of autographed material. So he does do mail-ins for all 4 major sports. And you can find his information on cardboardpromotions.com and on social media. He's on Facebook. The card shows probably run every 3 weeks, every month. So yeah, he's got a big one coming up pretty soon with one of Chris's guys, Jeremy Swayman, for an autographed guest. So if you're a fan of new Bruins or old Bruins, he's having Jeremy Swayman for the first time and Adam Oates, former Hockey Hall of Famer. So if you're an old school fan or a new school fan or somebody in between, he's got mail orders and everything. So check him out at cardboardpromotions.com. And I'm going to drop that interview in probably right about here, probably.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special interview segment of the 1973 podcast with, could I say, a friend of ours from Cardboard Promotions, Doug Keating. Doug, great to have you. Lots to talk about. 30 years of card shows, 30 years of card show guests. Hopefully some good stories, some fun stuff to talk about, some stuff to promote, and yeah, let's get rolling out. Just to start off, how did you get started doing the card show promotions?
Well, like a lot of kids, I started collecting when I was a kid, and this is probably the late 1980s. And then I started as a vendor at card shows, and then I said, hey, why not promote one? And then when I was a senior in high school, 17 years old, I ran one at our local VFW. The town I was growing up in called Whitman, Mass. If you haven't heard of that, next to Brockton, Mass. If you haven't heard of that, I don't know what to say. And a year later, I moved it to a Holiday Inn in Mansfield, and that hotel has changed name a couple of times. But with the exception of a couple of years due to COVID and stuff, we've been there pretty much nonstop, and a couple other locations on the way. Although I didn't really get into autograph guests until about 20 years, but still 20 until the last 20 years. But been a good 20 years, well, good 30 years too.
Could you share who your very first autograph guest was?
I think the first one, I know no one's going to even know who he is, but I think it was Greg McMurtry. His claim to fame, he was drafted by both the Red Sox and the Patriots.
Yep.
But never really did much in either sport. But I knew him because he's a couple years older than me, but he went to Brockton High School, and I went to Whitman Hanson High School. We didn't know one another personally, but he was kind of a big deal growing up, and he was pretty small. I would say probably the first bigger guest was Steve Grogan, and there's actually a much more interesting story on that. He's had a sporting goods store, Grogan Marciano Sporting Goods. Now I'm plugging his store forever. And I wasn't doing autograph guests at the time. This was over 20 years ago. And I stopped by the store and said, hey, you mind if I put out some flyers, give you some free packs of cards? And we got to talking. I said, why don't you bring Steve as a guest? And my thinking was, if you go to that sporting goods store in Mansfield, you can probably get an autograph for free. He's there half the time. But so I was a little reluctant, but we brought him in, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was 2001.
I've seen Steve Grogan there a couple of times. I took a picture with him the last time I saw him because I had a picture of him at training camp when I was a kid, and I kind of mirrored it with, almost 20 years later, and it's just a fun little fact there. So, Tom, being a raffle winner of Cardboard Promotions, what kind of questions do you have for Doug?
I want to ask Doug, I know you said you started collecting cards. What was your favorite sport to collect?
Back in the 80s, everybody collected baseball. It's ironic. We watched the other sports, but we didn't really collect the other sports, which is why 1986 Flair basketball is worth a lot, and 1986 Topps baseball is worth nothing. We collected the wrong thing back then.
Yeah, that's I have a story like that with when I was a kid. I had boxes full of cards, and my mother kept bugging me to try to move them around. I didn't move them. She ended up giving all my cards away to our paper guy, and I didn't know what was in there, what was worth or anything at the point. So I don't know. I could have been a millionaire by this point, but uh, so what's the I wanted to know, running things, what's the toughest thing you've had to deal with since starting it?
Since starting in 1991, or
Or whatever. Yep.
honestly, I was gonna say, I'm not really a morning person. I don't know if that's the toughest challenge, but a show that starts at 8:30. You kind of hope they set up the floor plan the night before, so you can, if you have to make any adjustments the night before. But a lot of these hotels, if I run a car show on a Sunday night, they might rent it for something else unrelated to Saturday night, so they don't set it up until that morning. And you try to get there before the vendors get there, to make sure tables are set up right, and all the vendors know where their tables are, things like that. And you just never sleep
That probably
well
answers my
before the
next
show.
question. My next question was going to be, how stressful is it for you on the day of a show?
I don't know if stress is the word. It's there's so many more stressful jobs out there. So many more, quite frankly, more important jobs out there. Uh, I think I'm good at what I do, but I don't make any notions that the job is any particular thing special compared to so many other jobs, more important jobs out there. Even if I was a teacher, certainly that's a more important job, and I can think of so many more important jobs. But I like what I do.
Doug, I got a question. Who is the all-time favorite guest that you've ever had on the show that you've loved having every time that he or she's been there?
Honestly, the small names are probably the most interesting. Someone like Ronnie Lepet, the former Patriot. The first time he set up, he was an autograph guest at my show. He actually showed up. He saw my Cacho sign on the highway, and then just showed up at the show and said, "Hey, I live around here. Can I be an autograph guest at your show?" And I said, "Sure." He literally just saw this. It's at a sports card show, right near the highway today, and he went to the show, and so we brought him back, and he just loves coming, just nice guy, and I know he's done a lot for charity and youth services over the years too, and his autograph doesn't go for much, but I don't pay him much, and that's a nice combination, I guess.
Yeah. That's all. It's a good.
It's tough to narrow it down. I mean, there's so many neat guys. Maybe I know you're more of a hockey guy, so maybe we'll talk more hockey.
No. I mean, Tom loves baseball, Ed loves football, and I'm the hockey kind of guy. So every time I've gone to a show, I always bring the kids, and it's always like, uh, a Bruin that we haven't met, or for me, my favorite guest that you've ever had was Bernie Perrant. I mean, I love Bernie Perrant. Every time you guys bring him in, I gotta go. He's great. He's awesome with the kids. My daughter had lost a couple of teeth, and he wanted to take a picture with her. So his wife asked me if it was okay for him to have a picture of her with him because of she had the hockey smile, and I have it framed on my daughter's wall, and he signed it to her, and it's one of the things that my memorable most moment from going to one of your shows was, him and her interacting in that moment, and me being a Flyers fan, and it was just like the perfect storm of things that happened, and I can't say enough good about the experiences I've had at the show. I've never ran into somebody that was standoffish or anything like that. Especially the hockey alumni seem to be a different breed when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's. I think if you become a hockey player, you're not going to be full of yourself. You chose a sport where you got to get hit, you got to fall on the ice, it's got to hurt, and that's the sport you chose. I don't think I think it's something in that sport. I didn't play hockey. I played so mostly soccer and basketball growing up. I have a lot of respect for anybody who play hockey, but there's something about I know it hurts when you fall on the ice like that. But anyway, so did you grow up in Philadelphia? A
No,
Flyers fan,
no.
or?
So my last name is Clark. My father's name was Bobby Clark. So as a kid, I
Oh,
was drawn to a team that had that, you know,
yeah.
your dad's name is one of the players. So and he played goalie and he looked like Bernie Perrant. So that's my
Oh,
connection with the whole Flyers thing. And since I was a kid, I take so much
yeah.
heat for being a Flyers fan from everybody I know. And every time I go and meet a Bruins player, they give me crap about that. So yeah, it's fun. I've met so many great players at the card show, like Guy Lafleur, Bobby Hull. I was going to ask you about, Grant Fuhr, Andy Moog, not just strictly Bruins players. I mean, Brian Trottier, Rod Langway. So many memories I have of meeting these guys because you gave me an avenue to go and enjoy not just guys from my childhood that I could share with family and friends and all that fun stuff. So if I could promote anything about the shows, is the family atmosphere is what I enjoy about it.
Yeah, I try to do that. We do a lot of we used to do free. I think I've given away more packs of cards than anybody maybe in the world.
Yeah,
We used
pro
to always
set.
do free packs of cards. Going back to the early 1990s, and then COVID hit, and as you know, a lot of the hobby took off, and a lot of that quote unquote junk wax just became too valuable to give away. So now I can't give it away. But speaking of the family atmosphere, we have a Father's Day card show every Father's Day, obviously, and that's our next show at Holiday Inn in Dedham. So we do a free gift for dads on Father's Day, sort of a tradition. And it's going to be probably an autograph card or photo because I'm always sitting on a lot of those.
Ed, any questions for Doug before we transition?
Sure. I just like to ask him. So, who is your favorite? I know you said with Ronnie, he came. He asked if you could come to the show and pretty much just come and join your show. Who's your favorite football guy that you just that just the first time you met him, like if you've watched him on TV growing up, that type of thing, and you met him, and you're like, man, I'm so glad that this guy showed up. It was so nice to meet this guy.
Favorite football. I was going to think other sports come to mind. Favorite football guy beyond Ryan LePet. Let me think. Might avoid I mean, among hockey, Mel Schmidt's up there. Among baseball, Johnny Pesky is up there. I think among basketball or football, anyone in particular? Frank Malzone, Louis Tiant, both those guys did a lot for charity. A lot of private signings I've had. I still didn't really answer the question.
No,
Not a
no,
football guy that.
That's okay, man. It's okay. I mean, we're pretty
Yeah,
much
I
we're
mean
pretty
Larry
loose,
Bird.
man.
We did the private. It was meeting Larry Bird at the private signing. He doesn't talk a lot. He does do with he counts the autographs in his head to make sure he's getting paid for every autograph. But he's a good. He's got a nice looking signature and hoping to do another Bird signing sooner than later.
Oh,
But
sweet.
it's so tough to narrow it down. Just so many names, so many positive stories. And all Cam Boyd comes to mind. Real nice guy. I remember going out he moved back to Mississippi, having him back here in another month and a half. He moved back to Mississippi, but he's coming back to Massachusetts for a month or two. Just so many guys. I'll think if you have any more, I think about coming up with a good football guy, football story.
Sure,
But
sure. I mean, Doug, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I mean,
oh
we're
no, yeah,
pretty
it's just tough
loose,
to
and
narrow it down.
and I mean, a lot of it is just it's kind of funny when you meet people. When I used to work downtown Boston, I mean, I met quite a few people. I was pretty lucky to meet Milt Schmidt and met LB quite a few times and had quite a few cocktails with LB working for the beer company that I worked for, and since he worked for AAF, it was had quite a few cocktails with him, and so all these guys are just really good people, and I met Sean Bates in Medford at a beer promotion. And matter of fact, he remembered who my roommate in college was. So it's kind of funny how life goes,
Doug, I want to ask
Yeah.
you, out of everybody that you've had, I got to ask, who who would you never bring into a card show again, or would you keep that confidential?
Well, one guy may Russ Francis. We didn't quite see eye to eye on a couple. I don't want to go into the details. He passed away, and Jose Canseco. Those honestly probably those are the only two that proved a little bit challenging to work with. And I don't mean like necessarily in a bad way. It's just when you're running a show, you really need you're managing 400 or 500 people, 50 vendors. There might be 3 or 4 autograph guests sign at the same time. You really need autograph guests that are easy to work with. You're doing the mail. I mean, it's a little bit. You're managing the mail. There's always mail order. That's kind of you guys should probably seen it to some extent.
Yeah.
And so I don't want anybody in particular. Although I did just mention a couple names, but you really need guys that they're easy to work with. With just trying to juggle a lot of the show.
Yeah, and I not to exclude anybody, but you've had a couple of pro wrestlers over the years, and some of them have passed. Like Nikolai Volkov was there one time when I was there, and had a chance to meet him. I wasn't even expecting to see him, and he was there, and he's passed away, and it's very cool when you bring up like Milt Schmidt and people that you've had and given a chance to get their name out there for some signings and take some pictures, and now they're not with us anymore. And it's really cool to look back on that and say, hey, I had an opportunity to meet this person. Now they're not here.
Yeah, a lot of the small names you don't necessarily make much money off, but I mean, you don't lose much money either. But they you can tell they appreciate being there. Jim Loscutoff, another small name, former Celtic, but he was on the roster for I think 7 championships during the '60s. He just loved being there. Unfortunately, he had some health issues in the end. But just a guy who comes to mind, he just loved being at the show and being recognized because it's not
Yeah.
maybe the big shows don't. Maybe he's not a big enough name for the bigger shows. I don't know.
Right. And I noticed that with the card boom, like you were saying, that there's a lot more competition popping up in the area a little bit. I'm on social media all the time, and I see these other things popping up, and I'm like, it's not as cool as what I'm used to with the way you present the card show. I really enjoy. I can't say that enough. How nice it is to go there when you have small kids or pre-teenage kids, and it's just nicer. I like the atmosphere.
Yeah, I don't know if to what extent you guys are in the hobby in the late 1980s or early 1990s, when they were just you had 4 or 5 shows every Sunday in Massachusetts, just that one state. In fact, that's why when I originally started my Mansfield show, we started it primarily on holidays, President's Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Columbus Day. I was kind of the small promoter. Now, I don't know if I'm a big promoter. I'm at least a medium-sized promoter, but I was trying to schedule my show around everybody else's show, and it'd be like I said, 4 or 5 shows every Sunday, a couple of shows every Saturday. Heck, there was at least one show every Thursday night, it felt like. And so I was the only one running shows on holidays, so that became a nice niche for a long time. And now the current hobby, you reminded. So then you went that, and I say from late 1980s to late 1990s, and then the shows disappeared. I don't know how much the hobby gets smaller or the internet affected things, a little bit of both. And then, post COVID, there's just so many shows, but I'm still doing well. So
Yeah. Also too, with it must be nice that you don't have to put posters out anymore on telephone poles with social media being so heavy that you can just put it out there and people find you a lot easier without doing a lot of the running around and stapling to telephone poles and all that other old school stuff like you're a up and coming band or
yeah, no, we still print flyers and put them out at shows with. I don't know how much that helps. It doesn't cost much, but yeah, I used to have a big email. I think it peaked the email list of like 2,000 addresses, and you'd have to you know print the addresses, and there's a way you can sort them through the post office, so it was a little cheaper than regular stamps. Still a fair amount of work. And now it's through the email list, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper and more convenient.
Tom, you got a question?
Yeah, I was curious. When you get an athlete to do these shows, how do you go about it? Do you have to talk to their manager, or how do you get these guys to come to you?
It generally depends on the size of the athletes. Most of the smaller players, you go. There's no agent, there's no middleman involved, and the bigger the name, there's usually an agent and sometimes a commission involved as well. But just a combination. I can find some addresses online and just a lot of connections, and a lot of the guys I've already worked through and have a pretty good reputation.
Yeah.
So if you have the money, some guys want more than they're worth, but I get it. They made millions of dollars, but generally, if the guy's worth it, I can get them.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there ever an athlete that when you started doing these shows that you said, I have to get this guy, or it's like, I won't say a must, but it was somebody that you really wanted to get?
Um, yes and no. I think you make an offer to an athlete, and if they say no, there's some negotiation involved, but I might be a little quicker than some other promoters to kind of move on to somebody else's other fish in the sea. I generally work with retired athletes. So other promoters work with active players, and they want to get them for the very first signing, and maybe they have a little get to get this guy. But yeah, it's always other fish in the sea.
So I got to ask you about Bobby Orr. So when we started this podcast already a little over a year ago, we were asked on an email who we would love to have on the show, and Bobby Orr is my guy. I grew up in that era. He's one of the few Bruins that I've always wanted to meet with the kids. And I got to ask you, would you ever have a chance of getting Bobby Orr at one of the shows?
No, he's not big on public signings. And then even if he was, I don't think I'd be able to afford him. Amazingly, Larry Bird did a public signing through Dick's Sporting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Through Dick's Sporting Goods. We thought he'd never do a public signing. Always done. I think he did one in Chicago not too long ago, which ironically did one in Chicago and not Boston. But even I think out of my budget, I don't know if I can even afford him for a private signing. But on my own, I mean, maybe it's a little different if you're just buying a few autographs here and there.
Yeah, Bobby Orr, I noticed, was in the private signings for the month of May, and I missed it, but the next time around, I'll reach out for that one because I got something that I've been holding on to since I was a kid to get signed. So,
Yeah, he does about one a year, one private signing a year, I would say on average. But maybe be able to get other people on the show for you.
yeah,
No
oh yeah,
small names that I work with, but or
yeah.
just where were you guys located, by the way? The three of
So
you.
I'm all the way down like Acushnet, Mass area, like near New Bedford area, and Tom's in Marion, and Ed's in Florida. But all the guys that we have on the podcast, they're all either local or we have a guy in Louisiana. So, but I want to try to promote on the social media page that we have for the podcast. When you post something on Facebook or social media, I'll share it and post it when you got shows coming up. So maybe it'll attract some more sports fans that will either mail in or
Everything helps.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'd love to do it. Like I said, I love going to the shows, and just the memories I have with the kids is probably my takeaway from it. Where can people find you, Doug, on online and
Yeah, File's website is cardboardpromotions.com. Cardboard as in baseball cards, what they're typically made of. Promotions because they promote shows. And our next card show is Emerald Square Mall a week from Saturday. well, 2-day show. Then we get current Bruins Jeremy Swayman and Hockey Hall of Fame Adam Oates and Bill Spaceman Lee as an autograph guest, and really good buzz on Swayman in particular. And shout out to Phil Castanetti in Sports World. He's at the by far the biggest baseball card store in Massachusetts on Route 1 in Saugus. I bring him up because he was instrumental in getting Swayman scheduled for the card show for next weekend.
Yeah, one of the big guests that you had lately that I kind of got excited about was Jari Curry. That was really cool. Somebody they don't really associate with the Boston area, except when they beat the Bruins twice in '88 and '90. But when stuff like that happens and you get a chance to go, that's what makes it awesome, is bringing in unexpected players that didn't really play in the area, and you get a chance to meet somebody like that, like I did. It was fantastic for me. I can't pump tires enough with stuff like that. So that's my thank you.
What we found, I look at it, for autograph guests to be successful, they almost always have to have a Boston connection. The only exception is hockey players. He's a hockey, big name hockey guy, and he's probably you see the pattern of guests I've had. They either have a Boston connection or they're a hockey Hall of Famer, or both. But because we've had some non-Bruins over the guy with Guy Lafleur, comes to mind, but Bobby Hall comes to mind. But yeah, Curry, he actually flew in from Finland, and that was another one where Phil Castanet was instrumental because he arranged that. He had Curry sign at his card store one day and my card show the next day. But if you're going to fly all the way in from Finland, might as well do more than one appearance. And I think he did something with the Bruins alumni that Saturday, the night in between. But yeah, we had a good turnout. If he wasn't, you fly someone in from Finland, and I'm sure he was pricey. Like I said, I don't know what he was. I wouldn't publicly announce his appearance, but I don't know what it was because someone else brought him in. But we actually got a very good turnout for him, despite the other prices. But people realize it. You're not going to see him every day. Another guy, we had Dino Raja, and he's not. He's in the Hall of Fame. Some people might say surprisingly played with the Celtics, but never see him again. I forget which country whatever country he's born, and that's where he is. And I don't think I'll ever see him stateside again. So I was able to. This is probably 8 or 9 years ago, but another example of a guy you just not going to see around anymore.
Tom, do you have any more questions for Doug?
Really, I think I've asked all the questions I had, to be honest with you.
Ed, do you have anything to add too before we close up shop pretty soon?
Well, I just want to say thanks for Doug. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. I guess it's kind of, for me, I'm not a big. I was never been big into collecting and that type of thing. And I guess my biggest question would be is how was the impact of COVID? Was it because more people just had time to kind of stay at home and they were able to kind of go out and about? Because living in the South, you kind of never even know that COVID was really happening, except for when it really first kicked off. So do you think that that's what it was, or people just had more time on the internet and vice versa, or that type of thing?
Yeah, well, I was going to bring up how that kind of changed how I did things. It's sort of in a good way ultimately. The biggest thing of the government just kept giving a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of us extra money, and we had nowhere to spend it because you couldn't go to a Red Sox game. You couldn't go. A lot of things you couldn't do. So they could spend it on baseball cards, even if it was strictly mail out or online. That could create a bit of a boom, and that it really affected my business too, because I couldn't run card shows for well over a year, and then I say about 3 or 4 months into COVID, I had all these connections with these former athletes, and I said, hey, I got some downtime, and you got some downtime. How about I come over to your house and we do a private signing, and we'll do it. Well, I'll wear masks. We'll do it safe. We'll do it in your driveway. I'm not asking to be invited. This is the summer of 2020. You didn't have to worry about the snow or stuff like that. And I think guys like Louis Tiant and the guys I work with a lot, Rico Petroselli, with some of the first couple names I did it with, and then something I'd never done before. Then I started traveling for private signing. That's something I'd never done in my 30 years in the hobby. I think the first two were Charlie Scott, the Basketball Hall of Famer, and Elvin Hayes, another Basketball Hall of Famer. And well, I've scaled that down a bit. It's been kind of neat traveling, and not only get to see all these athletes, and it's a little different, laid back atmosphere compared to a public signing. You really get to talk to them a bit. I travel to places that I wouldn't have otherwise. In fact, I traveled as far as Hawaii for Hall of Famer Don Nelson. And although I've been there once before, it was a long time ago. That was really neat. Although a long plane ride.
Yeah. I have one question, Howard. Do you have people at your show that authenticate the autographs?
Well, there's two types of authentication. There's the in-person authentication where they'll authenticate stuff that's signed in their presence. So
Yep.
just that lineup's autograph guest. And sometimes they're invited to every show. But
Yeah.
I think they're so busy handling mail order or busy going to the bigger shows, they more often than not they don't. And then there's kind of the authentication where they can authenticate to the best of their abilities. It's a professional judgment, stuff signed previously, and that type of a little more advanced authentication. I think we've got them here to my show once post COVID, and maybe two times before COVID, which considering the number of shows I've run, that's a very small percentage, but they're around.
So, Doug, I have a question about future signings. Is there any big first-time future signings that you're working on right now that you can kind of give us kind of like an exclusive?
Nothing, nothing official, but it's someone like well, like nothing official. There's players I'm looking into. I shouldn't mention any names until they're pretty official. Might hurt my ability to negotiate.
Yeah.
But I can't say somebody like Jeremy Swam. One aspect of the show, sometimes it might be not apparent to a lot of customers, is that sometimes it's me bringing the autograph guest, and sometimes it's an outside promoter bringing the autograph guest. I'm not sure to what extent you're aware of that. So, I say I'll say there's nobody in the pipeline, and then 2 days from now you'll see someone advertise,
Right.
and you're like, how come you didn't even hint at that, Doug? I didn't know that. It's like Jeremy Swayman. They, like I said, I wasn't looking into him. I had no idea he was local during the off season. But the partner we're working with on that, he called me, you want him? I says, why wouldn't I want him?
Right.
He's in. And a couple hours later, I had him up on the website, and so it's probably, you want to be surprised. I might be surprised in a couple of days.
Yeah, I try to check it all the time because you never know. Just like you said, it pops up and you're like, I didn't see that, and then it's like, oh, when is that? And you try to fit it in with, the schedule that with life, and it's like, yeah, that's a really good one. That's you're gonna have a really really good turnout for that. That and I'll promote the Ray Block show too. That's
Yeah, we definitely have some good guests coming up. I mean, but it's a niche for everybody. There's good guests at a price here, and smaller guests. We had Justin Haley was guessing I never even heard of him, but he was on the 2018 Red Sox.
Yeah.
He pitched like 7 innings. We actually sold over 40 autographs of him. This is our most recent show on this past Memorial Day. So $8 an autograph, and I think, and he was a really really nice guy too. He brought his World Series ring because he was on the World 2018 team. He got a World Series ring, and he brought one of his jerseys, and it made for a neat photo op. So some of those small names are just kind of neat. They appreciate being. I can tell you appreciated being invited.
Yeah, really cool. And also, I remember the show when it was in Mansfield. You left for a while and went to Dedham. You're doing Marlboro now. You're doing the malls. I mean, you're all over the place.
Yeah, so keep it busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are back, and at Mansfield, the holiday it switched from a Holiday Inn, and they wanted to double the rent there, and yeah, post COVID, so I ended up moving it to the Holiday Inn in Dedham, and then by sort of luck, it changed now it's called the Envision Hotel, and they've been, obviously much more willing to work with me. The only downside right now is they can't book the show that far in advance, so the dates aren't been it's consistent. I might do it 2 months in a row, and then might be off 3 months. Kind of take what I can get. But we are back in Mansfield. We've been there since about September of last year. Just haven't got quite the consistency I want. But then again, doing so many other shows. That's another thing about the mall shows. You and you've been to any malls, like most of they're just quite frankly dead. But it did provide an opportunity, and that they really want us there. And then the two malls that I'm currently, they kind of just really want us there, and that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, it's good for foot traffic. You never know, people are walking through, the 2 or 3 people that are still shopping at the mall are walking through and they're like, hey, Adam Oates. I didn't know he was going to be here. So yeah, really, really a good niche. It's just, like you said, the mall thing is kind of like going by the wayside now, right?
Yeah, the mall shows were a big thing back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and then now it's but like everything he was off. They don't get the foot traffic, but then the rent's a lot cheaper, so it kind of offset. It's just the nature of the hobby. There's more collectors, but there's more card shows. They offset one another, and then eventually there's going to go down. This hobby's got to go down. It's just we run in cycles, and
Yeah, and
people say, "What are
now
you going to do?" There'll be less. Yeah,
you
I
got
was
the
going to say
grading now.
there'll be less collectors, but there'll be less shows, so they'll be
Yeah.
offset one another. So
Right, right. Tom, anything to add?
No, I don't. I've answered all. I've got all the questions I wanted answered.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was Ed. Do you have more to add, or?
No, I thought it was great to have him on, and I was looking through. I followed him on Instagram and was looking through and thought it was pretty cool that he's going to have Steve Nelson and Ronnie Lepet and Bill Spaceman Lee and that type of thing. It was really cool. Going to have some really cool guests and that type of thing, and then he's also going to have the marathon where the marathon winner as well. So from a few years ago. So that's pretty cool. Since I used to be a little bit of a runner, not so much anymore. But that's really exciting. Good stuff.
So, Doug, don't be a stranger. I want to have you on again to promote some more stuff as we get closer to holidays and things like that. And I'm gonna totally push anything that you post, and try to get some more traffic your way, and maybe hopefully send some celebrities our way. Ronnie Lepet, maybe
yeah,
come
no, here's yeah,
come
just
to the
say if you
pod.
want. Well, thanks for having me on the show. And if you guys want to stop by the show and talk up some of the autograph guests, I know there's an unrelated. I don't think they even do podcasts, but unrelated party that always asked me, can I interview these guys at the show? I said, well, it's kind of up to them, and this is another way to get the connections. And like I met so many great people over the years. I mean, I made a
Yeah,
lot of good friends through the hobbies, and a couple of them invited my wedding way back when that was over 20 years ago. But it's a good hobby, the way to make connections.
yeah.
It's
Um,
all about relationships, man. That's what
Yeah,
it's all about.
Yeah, we reached out to Bobby Sheehan. I got his information, and his mailbox was full.
yeah.
So that was a fun little adventure.
Did you get his email from me, or did you need his number,
Yeah, I
or did it?
ended up getting his number through you, and Ed was trying to
Okay, yeah,
contact him. Yeah,
well,
yeah,
the Bobby Sheehan story. This is during COVID. We were doing a private signing, and I was confirming things with him, and he wasn't getting back to his. He wasn't replying. Turns out, like, he lost his phone, and so I happened to writing through a PO box. That's the only. I mean, that's a lot of people. It didn't have that, so it ended up working out. So pretty sure I gave him the new number
yeah.
because the old number no longer is. He lost
Maybe
his
I'm calling
phone.
the
The
old
time
number.
wasn't. I was like, I don't know. Am I gonna? This time gonna actually happen? Because
Yeah,
he
the
lost
last
his
time I
phone.
ran into him, it was at a YMCA or a gym somewhere. He was signing. And I forget. I don't know if you promoted it or whatnot, but it was weird. We walked through the lobby
Oh,
of the
yeah.
gym, and he was in the back, and I'm like, hey, there he is. He's got his Canadian stuff on,
No,
and
that's another great story. Peter Poli, who's both co-owns that gym and is a cat show vendor. He ran a small cat show there and didn't draw a lot of people. And he asked if I was interested in running it, and I said sure. So hey, let's bring in some small autograph cats and see how it goes. And it's kind of I think they're using that space, whether they do more cat. I think they're using that space for something else, but there's a bit of total trivia. All the tables there are now at the Emerald Square Mall.
Nice.
He let us borrow the table. We have it. I don't mind telling you this. It's no secret. We give him free tables to all the Emerald Square Mall shows as long as he lets us use his tables. It's a win-win.
Nice.
Where he's got 40 or 50 tables to use, and it says as long as he lets us use. So I don't think there'll be any more card shows there because he has no tables.
well, just
So the type
just
of
from a
deals
guy
you got
that,
to be cost effective.
yeah, it's definitely a better location. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's not the best location, but hey, was willing to try it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So let me I know that there's playoff hockey on tonight. It started at 8, so I'm gonna wrap it up with Doug from Cardboard Promotions.
Yeah,
Doug, from me and the guys, thank you for coming on. Appreciate the stories. Hope to build a bridge and maybe make some good connections through the podcast, and we'll go from there and promote all things Cardboard Promotions.
yeah. Hope to see it at one of the shows.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I can't miss you. You're about 6'7".
I
So
I am tall, and I usually
yeah,
have my Cardboard Promotion T-shirt on too.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Always the baseball hat. I know you when you're coming, and you look like a busy man every time I see you.
I am, but I'm pretty hands-on. But that's how I like it.
So thanks, Doug. I appreciate
Yeah,
your time, and we'll definitely get some stuff going.
Thank you, Andy and Tom and Ed.
You.
Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate it,
Appreciate
Doug.
it, man. Nice to meet you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's move on to a segment that we are always interested in. The master of ceremonies for the tinfoil hat. Thomas, want to give us the lead in for this?
Hey. Brad's tinfoil hat conspiracy of the week is brought to you by the 1973 podcast store. Check out both stores. We're going to put the QR code in because frankly, the email addresses are so long. I don't have enough air in my lungs to read them both off. So, but we have between the two stores, we have hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, cooking aprons, tote bags, mugs, etc. So check them out. And I believe at one of the stores, right, Andy?
Yep.
It's 20% off until Tuesday.
Yep, 20% off the store. And let's get rolling into some tin foil hat. Not the great hat that Tom has on that he got at the store, but the tin foil hat. So Bradford, you have the floor.
So you guys said my theories, my conspiracy theories weren't heavy enough. So I'm gonna bring one to hopefully challenge you a little bit, Tom. The theory of Tartaria, and if you don't know what Tartaria is, it's this idea that there was a civilization on Earth way before modern civilization. We're talking Earth way older than we think it is. They were well advanced, far advanced than we have ever dreamt of. They're probably responsible for building the pyramids in Egypt and in Mexico, all the other weird architecture and structures that we found throughout history that we just can't explain. How ancient man had the know-how and the means or the technology to build this stuff. Well, the excuse is, well, it was built by Tartaria. Stuff was wiped out by a great flood, a mudslide, or fires of some sort, and that we're now kind of living in this age of trying to catch up to what Tartaria was. Some of the evidence that leads to this, and really, if I'm being honest, we could do a whole hour on Tartaria and the stuff that people think is going on there. But they found an underground city in Turkey. They found all kinds of wacky stuff that they just can't explain. So my thing for this week's tinfoil hat is the New York City subway system. How do you explain the subway system? There's a lot of folks that think The civilization of Tartaria had already built out these subway tunnels. So if you go and Google New York City subways and how they were constructed, you can't find any real pictures of them being built. Now you will see pictures of these hollowed out tunnels and a bunch of dudes standing there with shovels, pickaxes, and horse-drawn carts. You'll see what looks like construction work is going, but there's no actual photographic evidence of like people building these things. They're just standing around the rubble and the dirt. Then if you look for modern day pictures of the subway systems being either maintained or refurbished or rebuilt or something like that, you'll see these massive machines, bulldozers and tractors and dump trucks the size of my house just coming in and moving all this earth. So if we need those machines to do that now, how are you going to tell me they built these things back in the late 1800s, early 1900s with some shovels, a pickaxe, and a horse-drawn cart? Like, the math ain't mathing. It's not adding up. Now you can say, oh, they blew it out with dynamite and they did this and they did that. Okay, I give you that point. But think of how big and intricate this subway system is in New York City. How are you going to move all that earth, all that dirt with just some dudes, some shovels, a pickaxe, and a horse-drawn cart? How are you going to do that? That would literally take forever to do that. I think they were already built. They were already there. I don't think that in the late 1800s, 1900s, they were built. And all of a sudden we have subways. I think they were there. I think the technology was there. We discovered it. We just built it out. We refurbished it. And it turned into what it is today. That's what I'm sticking with.
Chris, you've been known to look at some dark tunnels. So what do you think of that theory?
I know nothing about that stuff, man.
Thomas, we usually go to you. Yeah, Brad's
Chris is
winning.
catching strays.
I like it, man. I don't disagree with him there. I mean, actually, I've looked a little bit. I've read a little bit about this because I have a friend of mine from high school who I'm friends with on Facebook, and he's a big conspiracy guy. And this is sort of one of his things he talked about. So I don't doubt it.
So if you look at the way New York is, especially Manhattan, right? It's surrounded by water almost on three sides. How do you get subway tunnels under that years and years ago? Under that's amount of water. That Brad, I'm on board with you. I
A lot
say
of
it
questions
all the time.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about it.
Ed, do you have any questions for this theory?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I mean, to kind of go back to what Brad first started with, every single civilization has a flood story. So, I mean, every ancient civilization has a flood story. So, I mean, it is extremely possible for that to have happened for sure. I mean, my question is to kind of elaborate on this point. I mean, how did the pyramids get built the way that did they get built? I mean, because those are big, really big stones, and they really pulled them out of a quarry down the Nile River, 1,500 miles away on a little, what is it, papyrus raft? I don't know, kind of tough to take that one, and then kind of going into the ancient aliens type of thing, with the buildings that were built in Thailand, and they have almost the same pictures in South America. And they're finding all these cities and stuff like that in the Amazon and the jungles with LiDAR. Well, and these are all intricate cities. So, I mean, to dig that deep and to use, a place that, that we're very familiar with the Big Dig and how big those machines were to bore through the granite. That's pretty impressive to be able to do that with a pickaxe, a shovel, and horse-drawn carriage,
Yeah, the conspiracy theories are deep. I mean, every week you'll never run out of conspiracy theories to talk about, from the entertainment industry to the movie industry to history to civilizations to aliens to science. It'll never end. So, I mean, we could do a whole web series just on conspiracy theories. I mean, I think it's one of the more popular things from what the feedback I've gotten that we talk about. People have asked for different topics that we talk about that maybe other podcasts don't really touch. So, I mean, it is the 1973 podcast. It's all things growing up in our generation. So, I mean, it falls within the knowledge of, what we've learned over time about how playing outside is better than playing video games and how things have changed. So, Tom, you didn't put the tinfoil hat on this week. So
I had a feeling it was going to be a good one, so I didn't want to wear one. I agreed with him.
yeah, I like the Tartarian thing. I mean, that's a newer thing. And I saw a interview with Bob Lazar. He's done a few different ones over the years, and they're spliced together, but they're starting to come out more and more. He was a engineer, let's just say, at Area 51 before anybody knew what Area 51 was. Now everybody knows what it is, and I think they've moved everything away from there. But his interview is fantastic. He was talking about a lot of stuff back then that people were kind of like rolling their eyes at, and now it makes a lot more sense. And one of the things, and I think I sent this to Brad this week, was that there is a classified document that he did not have access to. And it was all about religion. And the conspiracy theory of what he said was mind-blowing about the human soul and how it is a vessel for a higher power. And it is absolutely crazy. It would flip the whole religious belief thing on its ear. I mean, I think it would topple a lot of the structure even more than the altar boy scandal did for the Catholic Church and things like that. So, not to get too long-winded with that, because I think we could talk a lot about that. But we're going to move on, start winding down this week's episode, and talk about our friends at Purchase Street Records. Go ahead, Thomas.
This week's album of the week is brought to you by Purchase Street Records, located at 53 Pope's Island, Unit 2, New Bedford, Mass, or online at purchasestreetrecords.com, and they also have a Facebook page. Purchase Street Records is Southern New England's largest independent record store.
Morning. My pick of the week is self-titled Badlands record. Jakey Lee, obviously, off right out of Ozzy. Eric Singer in his prime. I feel right out of Alice Cooper, and members of Black Sabbath and you name it. Supergroup right here, one of the first supergroups. I actually saw them back in whenever on this tour at the old living room. And if you did too, put it in the comments. But come down, get this signed by Jakey Lee. Everybody knows that this is a pretty rare record, and it's an original pressing. Open every day, all the time. Come buy this record.
All right. So we're going to wind up the episode. We're going to start with a guy that's been a recluse from the last couple episodes. He overslept 2 weeks ago, came in halfway through the episode, avoiding the Bruins elimination, avoiding the Phantom. Now the Phantom's calling out Christopher, what do you got?
I got no shout outs for today.
Wah. So
keeping it simple, I'm saving you guys some time. Go for it. I got nothing. I got nothing but problems and headaches right now, so we don't want to talk about that.
You got 99 problems? Edwin, what do you got?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for having the original group back. It's nice to see everybody. Thanks for not sleeping through. Appreciate that, Christopher. Brad, always appreciate your interesting insight, especially about your insight about hockey. Appreciate it. But no big shout outs. Just thanks for everybody for coming on. And we'd also like to thank Doug for coming on and spending time with us this Wednesday for the interview. It was great. Had some really great stories to talk about. So we appreciate him. We appreciate all of our guests like Joe Lyons. We appreciate Knuckles Nelson when he comes on. We also appreciate what's his name from Skate Weights, and we also appreciate the reaffirmation from Goongard. So
all right, so I'll take this spot. Hopefully we can raise the bar a little bit. I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's been a part of the podcast since day one. The guys that have come on, the people that have been a part of it. It's been fantastic. I mean, I said it last week with the Phantom here. It's just a chance to reconnect with your buddies for the week, talk shop, like if we're all out together, just sitting around, somebody's backyard at a cookout or seeing each other around the holidays. It keeps the mind moving. It keeps us talking about different things, watching stuff, and like-minded individuals, whether you can be here every week or you are here every week. I think everybody, whether they believe it or not, they bring something to the podcast when they're on, whether it's, Keith's come on a couple of times. He's been fantastic. Like to get him on more. Dennis has been on a couple of times before. I'd like to get him on when we start doing football again. He's been great. It's just great to see the guys. Brad's been, busy the last couple of weeks. He's been here, but he brings so much energy to the podcast when he's here. And we talk about it all the time. Very thankful. And when Chris is firing on all cylinders, he's funny. He brings a great comedic balance to it, whether it's one-liners or every once in a while when he gets a little wound up, it's great too. So I want to thank everybody that's been a part of it. And I even want to give a shout out to my buddy Phil Marcelino that has helped us out with the intro to the show a few times. And I forget to mention Phil, but I've tried to get him on the podcast a few times, and Phil just wants to be behind the scenes and do a few things. So yeah, we're working always to get better and have more fun and talk about different things. And we're open to having more guests. I'd like to get more guests. It's just sometimes it's tough schedule wise and financial wise. There's probably a lot of people we could get, but just a little bit out of our price range. Do you agree, Thomas?
Yes. And
go ahead.
I was just going to segue into my shout outs. I got a couple. First, I want to say happy anniversary to Mr. and Mrs. Phantom. I believe it was 22 years yesterday. And then I want to give a shout out and a happy anniversary to probably my oldest friend. I've known him probably since I was like second or third grade. Mark and his wife, Sarah. It was their 11th anniversary yesterday. Brad, you may have crossed paths with these guys. They were both in the Air Force. And finally, I want to wish, I just want to say congratulations to Kelly's goddaughter. We went to her graduation party. She graduated from the University of Minnesota's veterinary department. So on to bigger and better things for you, Lizzie.
So to close this week's episode, we're going to the king of the tinfoil hat, the man from the South, not the mouth of the South. Bradford, you're going to close out the show. Let's go.
Dang, Tom, you remembered like 3 people's anniversaries. I can't even remember my own anniversary. You are a legend.
Not even the first one or the second one.
Yeah.
Facebook memories.
You're a legend. No, so I want to shout out the family of wasps that I had to murk this weekend. I was hedge trimming the front bushes and they just swarmed me and I got stung. It hurt like a bitch. I did not cry because I'm a man. Instead, I went to the shed and I got my blowtorch and ended the entire bloodline and like took out half the bush. I don't care. The bush will grow back.
You're talking about yard work, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I burned a bush of yard work. Yes. The wasps were gone though. I won. Yeah, it was like 5-1. I got them.
Good man.
Yeah. No more blow torches, man. That's God's gift to fighting insects that sting. So that's it. That's my recommendation.
Words to live by.
Yep.
Be a man.
Buy a blowtorch. Be a man.
My takeaway from that is be a man. Suck it up. Be a man. Walk it off. Be a Gen Xer and walk that shit off. You fall down, you jump a sketchy ramp, walk that shit off.
Yeah.
Professor?
One more shout out, and I just saw this on Facebook or I would have forgotten about it, but the Phantom, once again, today, I believe his second son graduated high school today. So congratulations, Austin.
There you go.
Congrats.
UNH grad. He's going that way, right?
Yep.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode for another week. These turkeys, you know, yep, there you have it. Yep. Speaking of Bush, later, fellas.
Later.